Why is Dubai so rich? I've given this a lot of thought, and I think that the answer is not what you might expect. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. I've been fascinated for much of my life, even as a child, about why some countries are wealthy and others aren't. Been fascinated by why some people are successful and others aren't. I remember going to my father's company when I was young, and I'd go around the office and you'd meet different people. You know, everyone wants to talk to a 6-year-old kid walking around the office. And I would say to my father, hey, who's that guy I talked to in the break room? What's his deal? Just being an inquisitive child. And he'd say, oh, that's Craig. And he would tell me more about Craig. He said Craig's a very talented salesperson. Everyone, wants to buy from Craig. Craig's got a lot of talent, but he's a jerk. Or Craig got pulled over for his second DUI last weekend. Or, Craig is running around, chasing people and chasing women whose life is a disaster. And he's getting sucked into their madness. And he said, Craig has more talent than I do, but Craig can't get his life together. And so I've always found it to be an interesting way of evaluating things. And so having been to 100 countries, I've gotten to be on the ground and really see how things work. I talk about it in our book, especially in chapters 10 and 11. When you want to go and invest and be an entrepreneur in other countries, there are certain what I call soft metrics that you want to look out for. It's one thing to study demographics and GDP and all the hard metrics, but there are certain things that are just embedded within how a culture operates that determine where you should go and really in turn why some countries become rich. The reality is that Dubai has a great geographical location. It's why they have success with their airline, among other factors. They've had this great trade route that kind of opened up in the mid-20th century. And if you look at where they've gone from when that stuff first started, I mean, you go to Dubai Airport, you see pictures of them shooing camels off the runway back in my parents' lifetime. And so there are plenty of countries that I've been to where they were also shooing the camel off the runway or whatever the deal might be in their country 40 or 50 years ago, and they're still poor. So the fact that Dubai has had this international trade relationship is not really the issue in my mind. The fact that Dubai has oil is not really the issue because Dubai doesn't even have that much oil. The Emirates have oil. They have 10% of the world's oil, but plenty of countries have oil and they squander it and they waste it and the corrupt government fritters it all away and they never become wealthy or have any of the trappings of wealth nor even attract anyone's attention. No one's ever heard of them. So what really is it that makes Dubai wealthy? Why is it they have so much going on? Well, for one, the Emirates determined that they're going to have no personal tax, no corporate tax on everybody except for the oil companies or the foreign banks. And so that certainly brought a lot of people in. You've got a country of barely a million people that has 10 times that population living there now. And so they opened up the ability for anyone to come and start a business. I know people who moved from the UK, from Australia. We all know people who've moved to Dubai and started a company or gone and taken a job and helped to build the economy. Now, the criticism of the Emirates and of Dubai is that once you're no longer of use to them, then out you go. But the Emirates and Dubai, to me, are a reflection of reality. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but what I'm saying is they're there to build their economy. They're there to maximize what they have. And so they've marketed themselves as a tourist destination. They've really done better than anybody in that region at marketing themselves as being more than just oil. They're building all these man-made islands. They're having a building boom. And is that going to come crashing down at some point again? Yeah, probably. I think there's certainly already some pretty serious cracks in the system right now. And so Dubai is by no means perfect. There certainly is an economy that's built on very volatile foundations, much in the same way that when I lived in the US, I saw volatility in the real estate markets in places like California and Arizona, which you wouldn't see in places where they were just generally flat. But to me, Dubai has a culture that has a couple of things. Number one, it's financially welcoming. People want to go. They want their money to go where it's treated best. Capital is fungible. It's going to go where it's treated the best. And so Dubai has said, we'll do that. We're not going to tax you. Come and create whatever you want. We'll leave you alone. And now they're opening up and making it even easier to do certain stuff with companies, even if it's not the cheapest place to set up your offshore structure. They've said, hey, we're going to let pretty much anybody come in, as opposed to other countries where they draw a red line and say, everyone that we think is better than us from a nationality standpoint, they can come. Everyone that we think is worse than us, they cannot come. And so even some of the countries that I like, if you're Pakistani or you're Chinese or you just look in a way that they're like, we don't like this, they very well may reject you for residence. I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine recently in one of the countries where we do some business, and he was saying that he had a Saudi client who invested $2 million in the country, and they wouldn't give him a residence permit. Why? Because the people who work in the immigration office are decidedly anti-Arab. It's not a law, it's simply the de facto law that the people who make the decision and put the stamps on the documents, they get to decide. And they didn't like the way this guy looked, and so he invested his money and didn't get a residence permit. Dubai and the Emirates have said, we don't care where you're from. Now, no doubt, unfortunately, looking as I do, I'm going to be treated better than the guy who comes from Pakistan. I've seen that up close and personal. It's not fair. It is what it is. But they are allowing anyone who's willing to invest, anyone who's willing to start a company, you are welcome there. They certainly do stereotype people. The culture does stereotype people, but they're not going to keep you out. Those are two very important elements, in my opinion, for a country to succeed. And every time I've gone through my list of the 100 countries I've visited, trying to figure out the scoop, when I narrow it down to the list of the countries that we talk about, the Georgias, the Colombias, the Malaysias, and others, there are a number of common threads with those countries. And that is that they're welcoming to foreign capital, and they're welcoming to human capital. They're welcoming to people. They don't set arbitrary rules. Part of the reason why I think that the United States is going to suffer a slow decline is because they do the opposite. They're very unwelcoming to capital. They've lowered tax rates, but it's no great deal. It's still much higher than many countries in the world. If you're from certain places, it's very difficult to get into the United States. And they want to make it even more difficult. They're going in the opposite direction of most countries in the world, which are opening up. And so Dubai and the Emirates are a place that have really taken advantage of their resources. They have decided that they're going to be diversified. They're going to be open to capital and open to people. I think those are very important elements. What has changed in the world in my lifetime is that there are so many more places where you can go. 20 or 30 years ago, you would have never thought of going to Dubai. 20 or 30 years ago, you never would have thought of going to Georgia. I remember meeting a guy who was going to rent out my last apartment in Kuala Lumpur when I gave it up the first time. And he asked me, well, where are you going to go after this? I said, I've got a few places, but I'm going to go and spend some time in Tbilisi, Georgia. And he said, I was there before the revolution, before they became an open country with free markets. He says, it was hell. So less than 20 years ago, it was hell, and they turned it around, and now it's one of the top 5 or 6 most free economies in the world. If the countries you're looking at aren't keeping up at that pace, then they're going backwards. That is why I believe Dubai is so rich. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.